Belgium. Y- Yes, that's not a problem. Uh, I can both send the PDF and I also record my side of this, so I will make it available in a video format later too. Yeah. Okay. Um, I would have loved to be there and see everyone, but as Stefano said, I am in Belgium, a little outside of Brussels, between Brussels and Antwerp. But so then I'm here digitally. And as said, I'm going to talk about generative artificial intelligence. And I'm going to look more at the practical use of this, both for PhD students, but also generally for everyone else. I've been working with generative AI for the last, well, almost a year and a half now, since the launch of ChatGPT in November 2022. And that's kind of taken up all my time. I'm also a part of the AI Council at the University College. So I'm also working on the implementation of these tools in the organization in general. And I'm going to take a high level approach here because there is so much in this field, but I am going to show some tools and how to use them and what they can be good for in your work, but also in general. So, in the end of 2022, everything kind of changed in the field of AI. It's not a new thing by any means, but everything kind of changed a little bit. And after the fact, a lot have been said, both positive and negative. Bill Gates, who I hope everyone knows who is, kind of the founder of personal computing, he is a very starch proponent of AI, and he has said that the age of AI has begun, and it will be as revolutionary as mobile phones and the internet. And I kind of agree. And as we can see here, the world also kind of agrees. ChatGPT, which is most people's introduction to generative AI, got 100 million users in 2 months, which is faster than any other service in the history of the internet. Of course, that is now not true anymore because Threads by Instagram overtook it, but that's because everyone had an Instagram account anyway, so they just moved over. But this shows how the general public and everyone sees this and how interested everyone is by this technology. And of course, ChatGPT kind of kicked off this AI arms race. We see Google, Microsoft, and every other company, Meta, launching their own models to try and be competitive in this space. Which also means that there are more models and more solutions, more services than we can start actually thinking about using. I tried to keep up for a while and I've kind of given up because it's impossible to use all the services and it's also prohibitively expensive. And now we are kind of in the phase after the initial shock. So now everyone is starting to think, how are we actually going to use this? Will this transform our global economy? And will this have a personal effect on everyone? And most people agree that it will have a very big effect, but most people are unsure if it will be a positive effect or a negative effect. And a lot of people are talking about we have to come together and make sure that this actually benefits humankind. And as much as 40% of all jobs around the world will have be impacted by this. And ironically, with previous AI research, it was mostly simpler jobs that was automated away, but now it's more the brain jobs, more the creative jobs that have been automated first. Bill Gates is very media attention on this, and he says that generative AI will change our lives in the next 5 years. I will argue that it has already changed a lot of lives, and it will keep changing the further into this we go. And I am in academia, so I always like to talk about the academic side of this. And ChatGPT and similar AI solutions will undoubtedly disrupt the educational system. There are a lot about cheating and inaccurate information these days, but it can also be a very good tool to actually be able to learn, to be better at learning and better at actually getting ahead in society. Of course, not just positive things. There's a lot of people that have started using this for faking research. This is a case where researchers try to go together and make an article about academic cheating. And they actually generated a whole paper using ChatGPT. And it actually passed peer review, even though it probably shouldn't. And if you go to, for instance, Google Scholar now and you search as an AI model, I cannot answer that question, you will find a lot of articles that have been published, peer reviewed papers that have been published that actually are pure AI, and they haven't even bothered reading through it because they still have the AI inaccuracies in there. More than half of college students in America believe that using ChatGPT to complete your assignments is cheating. My policy is if you use it the right way, it's definitely not cheating. It's just a tool. But a lot of students do believe that using ChatGPT and other tools are cheating, and we kind of have to, all of us, talk about this in a nuanced way. Some ways of using it is cheating. Other ways is definitely not. Then it's just a tool like word processors. But we also have to ensure the academic integrity, even though we are in the age of ChatGPT. We have to make sure that people use it in the right way and not use it as a tool for cheating. And that's also why I always say yes to hold these kind of presentations, because I find it very important that people understand that this is a very good tool to use, but you have to use it in the correct way. And we are now in a world of AI. There are AI systems everywhere. New phones are launched every day with AI in them. Everything is launched with AI these days. And if it doesn't have AI, you will say that it has AI because else your company will fail. And this is having a very big effect on the world we're living in. And generative AI, the type of AI I'm talking about, because there are more than just chatbots out there, but generative AI, okay definition that I found from McKinsey and Company is generative artificial intelligence, AI, describes algorithms such as ChatGPT that can be used to create new content, including audio, code, images, text, simulations, and videos. We're maybe not there on the simulations yet, but the other ones we are getting pretty good at. Recent breakthroughs in the field have the potential to drastically change the way we approach content creation. And this is very ironic because content creation was one of those safe jobs in earlier days, but now it's actually the one that gets automated first. All of the images I have in my presentation are AI generated. Some of them you will clearly see it, others you will actually not. And I've left in the ones where you clearly see it on purpose because I find it important to actually say that these are AI generated. And the AI revolution, the age of AI, um, the important thing to think about now, like I know that you guys have now had a couple of days where we've been talking about AI and the machine learning aspects of it and transformers and so forth, but it is very important, and I always say this in every single talk I'm talking about AI, it is not a new thing. It is something that's been worked on for many, many, many years, among others by Stefano and the other people at the university has been working on this for many, many years, and all other universities have too. But what has changed is what happened in November/December 2022 that revolutionized the use of AI in society. Because we got ChatGPT, which was the first way everyone could experiment with AI. Before that, AI was mostly something for big companies, something for researchers, and something for highly, highly technical individuals that were playing with this in their on their own computers at home because it was fun. But most people couldn't use AI directly. Yes, recommender systems from Amazon and so forth was AI based, but people didn't really see that. So when we got ChatGPT, everyone got the opportunity to use an AI system and get answers from an AI. And after that, we've kind of seen an exponential growth of new AI tools, which means there are more tools than I can possibly list in this presentation, but also that is useful to use. Everything has AI these days. Everyone is using it for in some way or another. Now you can even use it on Messenger from Meta or Facebook. They have a new AI feature. You can talk with AI directly. And AI usage is skyrocketing. Everyone is trying this out. Everyone is seeing if it can make them more productive, if it can change how they work or enable new things. And in academia, we have to be very careful. We can, of course, use it, but there's also a lot of opportunities for misuse. My preferred ways of using AI tools is stuff like finding research papers. Cut down on the time you spend to find papers for research project or for just your own curiosity. Helping to correct spelling mistakes. We've been using Word for many, many years with spelling correction, but this is kind of the next generation of that. It will help fix the spelling mistakes in context. So it won't change that weird name that someone has that Google and Word doesn't know about, because they will assume that that's actually a name. It knows the context. But it can also code for you, which is a very good way of using AI these days. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. But you can also do things like data analysis, because most people don't know how to use the more hardcore tools for data analysis. They won't do it. But with, for instance, ChatGPT, you can have it do it for you. Of course, that will require a paid subscription, but most people, if they have that use case, they need it, then they will pay for it. You can make outlines for papers, for things you're working on, for presentations. Most of my presentations, I make an outline in ChatGPT first, just to test it out and see if it agrees with me, and also to get new ideas. And ideation, have a back and forth conversation with ChatGPT about your ideas, your thoughts, your research problems, and so forth, to get better and more all-encompassing ideas. And you can use it for so much more. I'm gonna show you some of the use cases in the tools section, but there are endless possibilities with these tools. But you can also, of course, use it for cheating. I would suggest highly never copy anything from ChatGPT or any of the other tools. Use it as an outline, as a starting point for your own work instead. I've said many times that there are a lot of tools these days, and there are. ChatGPT sparked kind of an AI gold rush. Companies, if they mention AI now, they get funded right away. A little company, in quotes, that started not far from here in Paris, Mistral. Obviously, they have very clever people, but they were a week old, and their website looked like something that was, well, now it's fancy, but when they started, it looked like something that was made in 1983. It was basically 2 lines of text that they were going to start making AI models, and they are now a multi-billion-dollar company, and they are also launching pretty cool models. That kind of shows how everything is these days. If you put AI in your company name, or if you say that you're working with AI, the funding opportunities are endless. There are more tools than you can use, things like voice AI. Now ChatGPT also has that, but there's a lot of AI tools to clone your voice or to use another voice when you're on a microphone. Text, ChatGPT, and everything we know about. But there's also a lot of tools for video. I'm going to show some of them later today. And image generators, as I mentioned, all of my images are AI generated, but there are a lot of these generators these days. But you're also starting to get more specialized generative AI tools for business use cases. Microsoft just launched a new service for accountants and finance experts that is directly integrated in Excel, where you can get help with budgeting and other accounting aspects. And of course, we still have the so-called narrow AI field, that AI that's meant for one thing, things like self-driving cars, robots, and so much more. For now, there's 600,000 models available open source on Hugging Face, where you can just download the model and experiment with it, both generative AI and also so-called narrow AI. And you guys talked about this yesterday with transformers and such, but large language models is the basis of most of these generative AI tools. And they are transformer models. And what they actually do is super simple, in quotes. They kind of just predict the next word in the sentence, but they have a context to predict that word. So they have learned a lot of things from a lot of data. And when you give it a question, they will have that as a context and then predict the next word in the sentence. And it's pretty amazing what these models can do just by predicting the next word in the sentence. And they are trained on trillions of words. Now the newest models, very many trillions. And well, we call it tokens, but that's basically almost a word. And these can also be used for so much more than text. The ChatGPT that was launched was originally just for text, but these days we have so-called multimodal models, which can also do things like image recognition. They can, some of them, watch videos, listen to audio, and you can just talk to them. And then you have diffusion models. I'm just mentioning this. I don't think many of you will be working with this, but I find it a very important part of this this field. And then we have things like stable diffusion and also Midjourney and all of the image and video generation tools. How they work is that they just kind of add noise to an image and then tries to turn it back into an image. So it has a dog, makes the dog super noisy, so pixelated, and then it tries to turn it back into a dog based on your description. And these are also trained on billions of images, hence why OpenAI and everyone else is getting sued, because they found those the images on the internet and they didn't really ask if they could use them. But that's how it can generate pictures, because it knows what a dog looks like and it knows what a butterfly looks like, and because of its training data. And it gives pretty amazing results. Some of these solutions now are phenomenal, and I'm going to show one of the new video generators later, and it's pretty amazing. In like an academic context or a research context in general, I've divided the use of these tools into phases, and the first phase is research phase. Research faster, make your research phase more easy, and don't read things you don't need to. In this phase, you can do stuff like finding papers, summarizing papers. It's the best function of an LLM ever. Just find a very big paper, 200 pages plus, and you just ask it to summarize it, and it will give you a pretty damn good summarization. So you don't have to read papers that are not necessary for what you're actually working on. You can also chat with research papers. The university has just made Copilot, Microsoft Copilot with Bing. There's multiple versions of it available to everyone at the university, employees and students. And there you can actually use this in the Edge browser to chat with PDF files. So you can have a PDF file open and you can ask the AI questions about that PDF and get answers based on the content of the PDF. It's pretty useful for the research phase. And of course, ideation. I love that word. Idea creation. Have someone to play ball with, to bounce ideas off and get a feedback if this is a good idea or not. And of course, as I mentioned, data analytics. Give it a big data set. This is mostly for ChatGPT, but give it a big data set and it will analyze it and give you pretty graphs and a good analysis. Something I've started using it more for lately is transcriptions. Both ChatGPT and other open source tools can transcribe videos. I am, as I mentioned, recording this presentation, and I always transcribe it before I put it on YouTube, so I have a proper transcription. But you can also do that with other things like interviews. A lot, a lot of projects in the research field do interviews, and instead of trying to make your own transcription, record it and have the AI transcribe it for you. Maybe then use a local model instead of ChatGPT because of the data privacy aspect, especially if this is some personal information in the interviews. But it is absolutely possible, and the error rate are now very, very low. In the writing phase itself, these tools can be very, very good because they are language models, which means they know one thing very, very well, and that's language. Things like outlines, make me an outline for this article. Ideation, again, give me ideas for an article on topic X. But also things like text correction. Here I just took some text I found online. It's meant for schools to learn how to write properly, and I just asked it to do a text correction for me, make it proper English, and it does it perfectly fine. And it also does that in multiple languages. You can fix sentence structures, analyze the text for logical mistakes. Word is very good at also correcting your grammar these days, but to make sure that the context is correct, that you don't have any logical mistakes, you can use the large language models for that. And in the development phase, I'm guessing some PhD projects will involve some coding at some level. And these tools are now gotten very, very good at that. There are a lot of coding tools. I'm going to show you the tools and how to use them later. There's a lot of tools for code development. You can ask ChatGPT to do it. The UBO GPT that you have access to through the university, and also Microsoft Copilot is very good at writing code. But there's also specialized tools for these, like GitHub Copilot, Microsoft, Amazon Code Whisperer, and so forth. And ChatGPT has something called Code Interpreter. It's also been named Data Analysis. It keeps changing its name. It's very good for data analytics, but also to write code. It will write code for you and it will also run it, but you can also then take that code and use it for further projects. But something that I always have to say is that generative AI is just a tool. It's no substitute for hard work. It's another tool in your tool belt, and you should use it as such. It does not replace the actual work of writing a thesis, of doing your research. You really have to use it as a tool, but it can make you more productive. And all of these tools, and I'm going to talk more about this, but all of these tools have some real problems that you have to watch out for. You cannot just use the output from an AI tool without actually checking if it's correct, because they do make a lot of mistakes. Things like misinformation, erroneous information, or hallucinations. And some tools also have a knowledge cutoff, like ChatGPT, the free version, and also, unfortunately, per now, the University of Oslo version that we have has a knowledge cutoff in September 2021, which means everything after that it doesn't know about, which means you cannot ask questions in real time. Then it will not give you anything, or it will just give you false information. And unfortunately, there's also a lot of bias in these models. I'm going to mention that later, but there are a lot of political bias, racial bias, sexism bias in the models. They're working hard to get it out, but I think that's going to be a hard job. Um, I've said many times that we're in the age of AI, but it is just the beginning. There are new models coming out very often these days. A few weeks ago, Google launched the Gemini 1.5 model, which was absolutely crazy. And OpenAI will launch GPT-5 probably later this year. And there are also others coming out, like the little French company I mentioned in Paris. They're coming out with new models more or less every month these days. And it will affect us, good and bad. I always have this just because it is interesting. The big talk these days from OpenAI and a lot of the others are about AGI, or artificial general intelligence. We are definitely not there yet, but that is an AI that has human level intelligence across all fields, almost. And the next step is superintelligence, which means that's intelligence way above humans in all fields at once. So that means the super bad Terminator style robots that will probably kill us because we're doing something wrong. And luckily, we're far away from that. Hopefully, no one knows. But I always like to bring this in. AGI is something you will hear a lot when you start looking into generative AI, because that's what everyone is working towards. There's also a very big possibility with these tools to do so-called automated research with so-called autonomous agents. And that is a fully autonomous AI agent that can work on a given task by itself. That is not something that's available in any AI tools for now, but you can also download it yourself and set this up with the API access. Things like AutoGPT and Microsoft's AutoGen is something that will probably be a lot bigger. You guys are PhD students, which means you're going to be working on a thesis for what, 3 years, 4 years. So this is something you're absolutely going to run into during that time. And there are also a lot of others coming, which this is basically just having multiple AIs talking together and agreeing on an answer before they give it to you. But they can also do other stuff like searching for information and add that to the conversation, and then agree on a final answer based on that. But it can also write a paper and write code and run the code and so forth. Um, Technically, you can also make it do automated research with physical equipment if you give it access. Google is very keen on this. They're developing robotic models that can be used in an autonomous agent framework. And then you have actual physical robots that will do tasks given to it by either by you or by other AIs. Scary, but for now it's safe. Uh, And I mention this because I personally believe that AI can solve a lot of the world's problems for us. Things like climate change, diseases, poverty, food scarcity, and so much more. Fusion power would be fun. Because AI agents, then you have multiple agents working together on one single task, and they will work 24/7 with no breaks, no sleep, no food, no nothing. As long as they get electricity, they are happy. And we can have thousands or millions of these agents working on the same problem at the same time, cooperating and trying to find a solution to one of these big problems. And they can work with significantly more data than us humans. And job market, I'm getting into all of the tools, but for the job market, 1/5 of all jobs will probably be replaced or change in a significant way in the coming years. But of course, new jobs in AI will replace them. So it's very good to learn AI and the use of AI already. Um, but everyone believes and agrees that this will be a very quick change. So there will be societal problems, but it will be solved by exactly using AI. So my tip is don't get left behind. AI won't take your job, but someone using AI will take your job. If you can make yourself more productive, make yourself work through problems faster, obviously you're going to be a better candidate for a job than someone that doesn't use these tools and don't get that boost. Um, yeah, and I've mentioned quickly these challenges, and there are a lot of them. And this is maybe the most important part of generative AI usage is to actually know about these biases. Uh, these models, all of them, doesn't matter which company you use, they are all trained on human written internet data, which means there are stuff like racism, sexism, biased against a minority group, other than just on race or gender. And there is actually a lot of political bias. ChatGPT is more liberal, leftist, and Meta's Llama 2 is more center on the political scale. And some of the other open source solutions are more right wing. So all of this is in the models. Unfortunately, this is something we probably will never be able to fix 100%. They are working on it, but this is the foundation that the model is trained on. They've learned from us humans, and unfortunately, some of the older and also newer internet data has a lot of problems. It has a lot of racism, sexism, and bias, which means the model will also learn that from us. And most of the time, maybe the most important thing is most of the time it won't come out and say something racist because the models have some safety nets around them. So it won't come out and say that this race is more worth than this race. But if you read between the lines, if you actually analyze the text it's giving you, there will be biases a lot of the time in this, except for if it's chatting with a PDF file, then it's based on the PDF file. But that is something that's very important to take account. Because if you're using these tools, you do run the risk of that coming into your research and your work. And you also have the case of overcorrections. Google's model has gotten in some trouble lately because has kind of done the opposite of what you want. You don't want the image generation to be racist. You don't want it to be biased. But Google kind of Google has been now called woke, that their models are woke, because they kind of went the other way. So whenever you asked it to generate an image of a 1940s German soldier, it did it in an ethnically diverse way, which means you got Chinese Nazis and you got black Nazis. They're further down. You can't see it because I couldn't fit all of it in a picture. But also, if you said, I want a stereotypical American family in the 80s, you also then often got a very diverse family where mom was maybe Chinese and the dad was maybe black and the kids were somewhere in between. So it kind of overcorrected. Google has acknowledged this because also if you ask for historical things like the moon landing, give me a picture of the astronauts from the moon landing, it will give you Indian people on the moon and stuff like that. If you wanted a Viking, you got someone that was from Africa, which it's maybe not correct coming from Norway. I know that there wasn't many black Vikings. And Google has acknowledged this and they've shut down their image generation and they're fixing it. But this is kind of an overcorrection to the whole problem of bias. There's also a lot of misinformation. The generative AI tools are now used extensively to create misinformation. Think about deep fakes of presidents or presidential candidates saying something they wouldn't say. That is unfortunately something we're going to go through in this year, and it's getting bigger and bigger. But the models can also give you misinformation because it is in its training data. So it can support facts that aren't really facts. So you have to make sure you look out for that. This is less of a problem with the models that can actually access the internet. So ChatGPT Plus, which is the premium version, the Bing Chat, Copilot Chat, they changed the name once a week, I feel, so I always say the wrong name. But Copilot from Microsoft also has access to the internet, which means it's less likely to give you misinformation. But you should also always validate the answers. Hallucinations. If a model doesn't know something, it will very often, instead of saying, I don't know that, it will hallucinate an answer and invent something. These are two examples from the internet. What is the world record for crossing the English Channel entirely on foot? Firstly, it gives me two different answers. And last time I checked, it's not that easy to walk from France to England because it's kind of wet. And that is a problem with the models. If they don't know something, they will often invent it. So it's very important to actually look out for that and verify the information, because this is a very big problem. Also, less of a problem with models that can actually search for information on the internet. So the premium solutions, Google's solution, and so on, they can search the internet, which means they will most likely catch this mistake before they make it. But it is still something that you have to check. You have to verify the information you get. Because it's very good at hallucinating. I've gotten so many funny answers. I haven't always screenshotted it, but it says a lot of weird stuff sometimes. And spam is a problem. A lot of people are saying that generative AI is already ruining the internet, and I kind of, in some ways, agree. I find the internet still pretty good, but there are a lot of AI generated spam. I get a lot of spam in my email inbox too, which is clearly AI generated, because it makes it easy to do this kind of stuff. And it fills up the internet with fake content, which means the models that are trained now are also trained on the fake content, which is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, spiral of doom. But it is a very big thing these days to use these to make SEO articles. Fraud. I don't know how many of you guys have gotten very convincing fraud emails lately. I get a lot of them, but you also have things like deepfakes. Right now, I'm actually training a deepfake that I'm going to present at the conference in April, because these tools make it very, very easy. And you can also use things like 11 Labs to generate fake voices. So these days, if you get a call from some loved one that asks you for money, or send them a gift certificate on something in a weird email you've never seen before, maybe hang up, because it's most likely someone that's trying to defraud you. And of course, cheating is always a problem with this, because they've already been used a lot. We have had to report a lot of cheating cases with generative AI, because people use things directly from ChatGPT, which means you can kind of understand that it's AI generated, but also because all of the references doesn't exist. None of them do. Very often, if you get it from ChatGPT, the basic version, but also because these models are trained on internet data, and it is very unlikely that it's going to give you word for word something from its training data, but it does happen. It is pretty difficult to detect this. Well, obviously, if it clones information, then it is very easy to detect this. But if you just use it as a writing, make it write something for you, and you make sure that there's no mistakes in there, it is very difficult for us to detect it, unfortunately. And I'm very honest about this because it is a potential problem. But the models can also generate plagiarism. So be careful for that. So don't just hand something in, because it can be plagiarism in there. And this is a big topic these days, the ethics of using these AIs. My policy is that if you use it as a tool, I don't see the problem. But it must, of course, be used ethically. So use it as a tool, not to cheat, and also think about the societal impact of the technology. There is obviously a societal impact of this, and also climate and environmentalism. I'm a techno optimist, so I hope that we can change that and fix that. But for now, it is actually a societal impact in the form that it uses a lot of power and uses a lot of water. But I would also say that the fact that these tools are available for everyone has a very big societal impact, that it kind of evens everything out. Everyone has access to this. Everyone has access to these tools and the knowledge, and to learn from it, which means it can be a big equalizer for society. Also, take into account that there are some copyright issues here. All of the companies are now getting sued, which means if you generate something, there might be an underlying copyright issue. Not something you will take on, but something the companies will. But just be aware that that is one of the impacts of these tools. Are we going to do the break at 2, or? Uh, Roughly. I'm a little under halfway, but some of the other slides will go a lot quicker, so I think that should be fine. Yep. Yep. Um, Talking to AI, because most people have this impression that if you just open ChatGPT, you will get the perfect answer, but that is definitely not true. There is actually an art to this. Um, and that is called prompting or prompt engineering. It's the way to get the best out of the AI. I change what I call it. Prompt engineering is probably the official name. Well, it is the official name for this, but also prompt design and AI whisperer is something I like to use. And that is generally the art of talking to the AI to get the proper results. And this can be done as simple as asking a question, or very, very advanced with examples and with code. You can do this as advanced as you want. Lately, there's actually been a lot of work being done on using generative AI, large language models, to optimize prompts for large language models. And some of these prompts have gotten super crazy, emulating Star Trek episodes to get the best math results and so on. Yeah, I'm not going to go that deep into it, but you do need to know how to talk to these to get the best results. Maybe specifically, well, maybe more if you're generating images and so, but generally you need to talk in a specific way to get the best results from these. You can also give it formatting instructions, like I want this in a graph, or I want this in a table. Role playing is very effective. Give it a role, give it a kind of a persona, and you will get a lot better results a lot quicker. So, simple prompts. That's what most people start doing. But simple prompts will give you simple answers. So, like here, what's the capital of South Africa? Newer models actually answer this a lot shorter. So, if you say, what's the capital of South Africa, it will just say the capital of South Africa is Pretoria, or just Pretoria. I think that's to save data processing. But simple questions will get you simple answers. So if you are looking for a simple answer, give it a simple question. And ChatGPT has also lately gotten better at giving more complex answers to simple questions, but that doesn't negate the need to ask more complex questions. It will, among other things, say, "Let's go through this step by step to get a proper answer." Um, Prompt engineering, I just want to say right away, is a very, very big field these days, and you can do a lot. I don't have time to go through all of it. I'm just giving some good examples. Instructions get output in a given format, so give it instructions on how you want the output formatted, or how you want what you want it to do. Give it some examples, some more detailed instructions, and it will get you a lot better results automatically. This is just like a basic example. Remove personal identifiable information and replace it with this, and also do that with the name. For instance, a name this, you replace it with that. If you do this, it will automatically be a lot better. If you just give it the text and say remove personal information, it might miss something here and there. It's a relatively simple way to get better results. And my maybe favorite thing these days is to do role prompting. Give AI a role. Like in this example, I'm telling it to be an etymologist. I love and hate that word, which is an expert on words and their origins. And if you give it a role like that, it will give you a better answer. If you just say, give me the ancient root of the word pizza, it will give you a worse answer than if you give it a role first. It will stay kind of in character and give you an answer as if it was that person or that role. So give it a role like a professor or a mathematician or a programmer, and it will generally give you better answers on that specific thing in that specific field. And thousands of different roles have been tested with the prompt style. And if you Google it, role prompting ChatGPT, you will get a lot of extensive articles on it, but it will generally give you a better, more concise answer. Few shot prompting, give it some examples of how you want something solved. This is super basic. I have some very advanced few shot prompting examples, but they didn't fit on the PowerPoint, so I just did a super simple one. Give it some examples, like here. You say, great product, 10/10. That's a positive outcome. Didn't work very well. That's a negative one. Super helpful, worth it. That's a positive one. It doesn't work. Obviously, that's a negative one, because then you've given it a context. How do you want it to format the answers? How do you want it to, what task do you want it to do? Then it will give you a better answer. So few shot prompting is just give it some examples on the output you're expecting. Like if you're giving it a brain teaser, there's a lot of these going around. Everyone tries to trick the large language models. But if you give it some examples of brain teasers first, and then you give it a new one, then it's more likely to actually be able to solve it. And you can also continue this chat because it keeps it in memory. So you can continue this chat and paste in other stuff later, and it will still give you an answer according to those examples. Chain of thought prompting. Think through your answer. This is a way to make the AI think through. Well, think is maybe objective here, but kind of think through its answer before it gives it. So here you will also give some examples, and you will take it through how you got to the answer. By dividing this, like in the example here, you actually do the calculations, and you give it an example where you've done the calculations and then say which option is quicker. And then you ask it to do it again. And then it will actually do the calculation in a step-by-step manner, kind of like you told it earlier. Zero shot chain of thought. The magic phrase for AI, at least the current models, is let's think step by step. Because these models are sometimes super stupid, especially if you're talking about logic, if you're talking about maths, if you're talking about more advanced concepts, they will surely fail. If you drop let's think step by step on this example, it will fail. It will give you the wrong answer. But if you add let's think step by step, it will actually be able to do it. So if you're trying in ChatGPT or any other tool to get something logical, ask it to think step by step. Then it will give you a significant better answer, because then it will start, okay, here we have 5 pears. Okay, we eat 2. Okay, then we have 3 left. And then we buy 5 more, which means we have 8. And you give away 3, which means we have 5 left. And then the final answer is 5. If you didn't do this, I think the answer would be 3, if you didn't ask it to think step by step. So zero shot chain of thought is maybe one of the easiest way to get better answers. Just append let's think step by step at the end of your question. Yeah, it's a similar chain of thought. It's just without the example, so you don't need to add that much text to it. And of course, you have a lot more advanced ways of doing this, like multi-prompting. I'm not going to go into that, but that basically means that you have you prompt the AI multiple times, and then you have another AI evaluate these answers and then make a recommendation on what is most likely correct based on how many said this and how many said this. And then you keep going, and then you get an output that is most likely more correct. This is super advanced, not available at any of the services by now. You have to do an API, so you have to program your solution to do this. But that is kind of where we are, what way we're going. And this is also kind of like the agents that I was mentioning earlier. You can get very complex tasks done and get super good results, but it is a lot more work to do it. Yes. Are we doing the break then? Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. I'm fine. It's okay. No, no. A lot of my presentation is based on my own testing and my own experimentation. So I don't have a reference section at the end. Um, I can find the article again and send it over. Yeah. Well, I'm showing pre-made examples because all of these tools they take a while to generate. So very quickly, when I started holding presentations on this, I realized that I live demos are, yeah, well, maybe not the cleverest use of time. So I generally do all of the testing ahead of time. I never change it. So if I get a wrong answer or something weird, I leave it in because I think that's kind of important. So I don't cherry pick my examples. But yeah, no, live demos of AI tools. Yeah, it takes a while. Like image generation, it quickly takes like a minute or two, and text generation also takes a lot of time. So then the time goes very quickly. Yep. I've tried to do that a couple of times, and it took a lot of times, and sometimes the services also go down. They're so I never risk that anymore. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but it does always take a few seconds to like a minute or something, um, and this is also a very long one for me. Normally, I get a lot less time available. So here I could have technically done it, I think, but yeah, a lot of the time is like, yeah, can you do a 20-minute presentation? Great. That's a lot to put into 20 minutes. Of course, then you cut a lot, but still. Yeah, 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 yeah. So all fine. Okay. Yes. Um, a lot of the remaining now is showing some of the tools and what they are good for. And I just want to preface this by saying that the university doesn't really have an AI policy for now. We're working on it. I'm on the AI council that's going to develop that. But some of the tools I'm showing is not on the list of so-called approved tools. Well, most of them are not, because the only approved tools for now is the University of Oslo's custom ChatGPT solution that we are paying for, and also Microsoft Copilot with Bing, which is an enterprise solution from Microsoft. Um, that are the tools that are approved, but I also do believe and absolutely think that other tools also have to be used, especially, well, kind of depends on your field, but like in my field and in Stefano's field, we kind of need to be able to use the other tools because, well, we need to know how they work. And in some other fields, that's also something that is very important. So I am not exclusively going to talk about the University of Oslo solution or the Microsoft solution. I'm going to mention them, but I'm also going to look at a lot of other tools. The first one is ChatGPT. I am a very big user of ChatGPT. And it might, for now, be maybe the most used LLM and chatbot around. Google is trying to compete with them, and Microsoft has their own, which is also built on top of ChatGPT. But ChatGPT generally is a very good solution for most things. It's free to get started with, so if you want to experiment, you can do that. Obviously, you get the cheapest model then, which is GPT 3.5, and you get the basic features. If you pay for it, you can also get something called GPT-4 Turbo with vision, which means it can interpret pictures, it can do data analysis. You get so-called custom GPTs, which means you can make your own version of ChatGPT. I would highly suggest using that because it is such a big resource, depending on what you're doing, for research and for other tasks, that I personally would not be able to do my job without it these days. And you can also get voice, which means you can chat with it in voice. On my phone, it's maybe difficult to see. You guys have a very small picture of me. On my phone, I have a shortcut on my home screen to talk to ChatGPT. I just press it, start talking, and it will give me the answer, also in voice or text, depending on what I want. And as I mentioned, you can make GPTs. And the maybe most powerful thing about ChatGPT is that you do, if you have the plus version, you do have access to the internet. You can make a custom GPT, which is specially tuned to do exactly what you need it to do. So you can give it data, you can give it articles, you can give it information, and it will answer in that context at all times. And yeah, big data analysis and data analysis in general is something that the Plus subscribers can do. And GPTs are kind of like custom chatbots. I love this. I've made multiple ones because they are actually very, very useful. I wish, and just to say it, I have worked very hard to try and make one of the official solutions for the university, ChatGPT Enterprise. Unfortunately, we're not big enough or cool enough, so OpenAI don't want to answer us on that request. So for now, we can't have it. But custom GPTs or GPTs in general is a way to make your own specialized AI that has your data, talks in your voice, and answers questions the way you want it to. And you make it by just having a conversation with it, and boom, you have a custom GPT. And you can have custom data, custom instructions, so it will always format the text in a certain way, and so on. But you can also give it functionality, so you can go and get something from the internet, or you can go and get something from another service and do something based on that. Other tools, I've just recently started playing with this, and it's super, super nice in the newest version. Gemini from Google. And this is Google's competitor to ChatGPT. Their first version, Bard, was very bad. Their newer solution, Gemini, and they also like to rename their solutions. Originally, it was Bard with Gemini. Now it's just Gemini with Gemini, I guess. It is a very powerful model, and it uses Google's vast library of services, which means this model, if you get a free ChatGPT account, it is GPT 3.5. It doesn't have access to the internet. Knowledge stops in September 2021. But Gemini, even in the free version, has updated information, but it can also call out to other Google services. So things like Google Search, YouTube, Google Docs, and so forth, it can use, which means it has a completely different set of knowledge compared to a lot of the other solutions. I'm still not going to give up my ChatGPT account for it for now, but it does have a lot of perks. There are multiple models here. Gemini 1 Pro, which is what everyone gets in the free version. It's a very, very capable model. Then you have Gemini 1 Ultra. You have to pay for this. It's a model that can go toe-to-toe with ChatGPT, and it's a very good model. And then you have the newcomer in the field that was launched roughly 2 weeks after the other two, Gemini 1.5 Pro. For now, it's not available in the interface for everyone, but it is coming. And this model can remember something like 700,000 words, perfect recall, and you can ask about anything in that. And you guys are writing a PhD thesis. Think about putting 50 other theses that are related to yours into Gemini and ask questions about that text. Ask questions about what they did wrong, what they did right, what you can learn from that. That is very, very, very valuable, and no other solution per now can do that. It is $20 a month too. So as you might see, if you're gonna subscribe to all of these services, it suddenly gets to become a lot of money. But maybe starting out with the free Google Gemini and seeing if it does something positive for you. I've asked the same question to all of these AIs now just to see the differences. And there are a lot of differences in how they answer. Uh, Microsoft Copilot, that is also what you have access to. Um, this is one of the official services at the university. And I would say that this is maybe the best solution for everyone to start experimenting with. The University of Oslo one, it's okay, but it is very limited in what it can and cannot do. But it is also the only available service that we could subscribe to. This is a Microsoft solution, so it's based on the same technology that OpenAI is using, because it's based on OpenAI's models, because Microsoft gave them a lot of money. But it is in Microsoft's solution. So you can get Copilot with Bing, which is what you guys have access to. If you log in with your university ID, you will get access to the enterprise version of this. There's also Copilot 365. We don't have that because it was very, very expensive. And there's now coming a Copilot for Windows. It's not launched in Europe yet, but then you can just press the Windows key and start talking to Copilot, so you can also see all files on your computer and so forth. I don't know if that's going to be turned on for our solution, but still. And this also integrates into Microsoft apps and services. So that means in the coming months, it will be possible to have a conversation with Copilot in Word, in Excel, but also on their website, in their browser. And specifically, the browser solution is very smart because it can see PDF files, it can see articles, and give you information from those. And Copilot also has access to the internet, so it's kind of like Google's solution. Um, but it has access to the internet through Microsoft Bing, which is a little less good than Google, maybe. But it does have access to the internet. It can read articles, it can do a lot of stuff, and it can also generate things like pictures and so on. So this is an approved service, so you can use it. An asterisk there is only for green data, so publicly available data, no private information of any kind can go into this solution. And then we have the, yep. Yes. Uh, Gemini is not available in the app on iOS, but it is available on Android. So if you have an Android phone, you can download an app. ChatGPT is available in both operating systems. It doesn't matter. And Microsoft Copilot is also available on your phone. I actually use it a lot on my phone, all of these services, just because it's easy. This service is not available on your phone. Well, it's universally accessible, so which means you can log in through your phone, but in the web browser. And that is so-called GPT UiO, University of Oslo. And this is our primary generative AI solution at the university because it's the only one that's approved for so-called green and yellow data, which means some internal information that's not personal, like sensitive, it can be used in this solution. You can log in with your university ID and get access to it. It is rather safe and secure because no personal information is sent onto OpenAI. It uses OpenAI technology in the background. And as you see here, it says GPT 3.5 Turbo, but that is changing. This week or next week, we're getting GPT 4. And in the beginning of April, we're getting GPT 4 Turbo with vision, maybe. They haven't said 100% if it's vision based or not yet. But that is coming, which means you will get a lot more updated answers, a lot better answers. But for now, the University of Oslo forgot to turn on the GPT-4 version when we signed the contract. But they're doing it now, so it's coming in a few days. Yep. Yeah, well, no, they're running it through Azure, so Microsoft Cloud. But we are paying the University of Oslo a subscription per year for the amount of users we have at the university. So total users, not active users. Uh, but we also pay for tokens on GPT-4. GPT 3.5 is free. Well, the turbo version is free with our subscription, but everything else we also pay. So they get like a certain amount of money from us every year just to maintain this and update this. But it's not a cash cow for them, so that's also why the new features aren't coming that quick. Yeah, as I mentioned, green and yellow data can go in here. If you need to know about the different qualifications of the data, then you have to check the IT department because, yeah, I don't remember all of them in my head, but green data is everything that's public. Yellow data is internal information that can be public. We just haven't made it public. It's not dangerous to make it public. And then you have orange and red data, which is stuff that should not be shared. Yeah, as I mentioned, uses GPT 3.5 Turbo, but will be upgraded GPT-4 this week or next week, and GPT-4 Turbo soon. Trademark. We've been promised April now as an update time for that. So early April. This service will be a lot more usable because for now you have 3.5 Turbo, which is an okay model, but it is very limited, and knowledge cutoff is September 2021, so it doesn't know anything after that, which is a problem. But it will be updated now. This is the primary solution, so if you want to just experiment a little with Gen AI, use this one or the Copilot from Microsoft, and then you can test out other solutions. It's just we cannot say that you have to, and the university will also not pay for that usage. Another service that is actually super, super cool is something called Poe. If anyone has used Quora, like the question answer website, this is from them. This is a subscription service. There is a free tier. You can try and experiment with it. You install it locally. You can also use it in your browser and on your phone. And this gives you access to more than one model. So like here, my screenshot, I have web search, GPT-4, Playground, Claude Instant, DALL-E 3. But here you also get access to a lot of other models. So Google's Gemini model is available here. You get access to the new Claude 3 model. I'm going to mention it soon. And you get a lot of other models you can start using here. Also image generation and so on. So and this service is also, I think, roughly $20 a month. So if you want to experiment and test things out, test different models, this is maybe the place to do it because here you can get all matter of different AI models to experiment with. Maybe more relevant if you're doing like a PhD in technology and you want to test different models, but it is a way to be able to experiment with different models. I've been using it a lot to test models against each other. So yeah, you have a lot of models available here. Also, open source models from the French company is available in here, so you can talk to it. Obviously, there's a limit. You're paying a certain amount of money a month, so you get a certain amount of queries. But I still haven't hit the roof, the maximum there. This one is completely new. I had to actually add this slide because it was launched after I made the initial presentation. Claude. Unfortunately, this is this is a competitor to ChatGPT, and it's gotten super good, especially the biggest model. And it's more human in its responses, which means it feels more like talking to a human. Its writing style is more human, less ChatGPT, which is a good thing. And there's also supposedly less bias in the model. I cannot confirm that because I haven't tested it enough to say that, but it's supposedly less bias in the model. So less chances of racism and sexism and so forth. Unfortunately, not available in Europe. I had to mention it because it's such a big change in the top leaderboards of AI tools, but it's not available right now as so-called Claude.ai, which is their open chat service. But you can get
access to it through an API or through, for instance, like Poe that I mentioned earlier. But this is something I think they're gonna launch this in Europe very, very soon, and it's absolutely worth testing out because it is doing things in a very different way. Um, and there's a lot of open source models. There's thousands of them you can run locally, and I would suggest testing it out because the problem with a lot of these AI models is that there are American companies, which is kind of a headache from a GDPR standpoint. And you always do send data to like OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, and so forth. Open source models can be run locally, and it stops then the data sharing. Everything will stay on your machine; it will never leave your machine. So if you're working on like sensitive data sets and so on, you can actually do it with local models without that being a GDPR problem. And you can also fine tune them for specific use cases. So you can retrain them. It's a little more technical, but it is absolutely possible. And it allows you to experiment with different solutions and different services and models to see what fits you the best. And it's quote unquote free because you run it locally and it's open source, but you do have to have a little powerful computer to do it. Obviously, if you're a Mac user, it doesn't really matter because the GPU and CPU use the same RAM, which means you can use pretty large models on a fairly okay Mac. And one of the solutions to run this is something called LM Studio. It's super easy. Of course, if you're afraid of the terminal, you shouldn't use this. There's no one-click installer, but it is literally one sentence in your terminal, and you can start running this. And here you can download. It will download for you the models you want, so you can test different models in the experiment. You can change between models, so you can test in one model and then you can change to another model. And it's relatively easy to get started with. There are alternative solutions to this, but I found this to maybe be the best one because it has access to all the models. You don't have to do any tricks and things to get it to work on everything. So yeah. Um, when it comes to image generation, because I've tried to cover more than just large language models, just chat interfaces. So for image generation, you have things like Midjourney. All of my images are generated in Midjourney just because I like it the most. And it might actually be the best out there for now. You can get highly realistic photos. Here I've just asked it to reimagine Mona Lisa as abstract art. And it does it pretty damn well. You can choose different art styles, and it has a large set of functionality. So you can zoom out, you can expand the photo, you can change aspects of the photo. Like, yeah, I didn't like the eyes. Okay, let's change the eyes then. And it evolves very quickly. When I started using it, it was at Midjourney version 4, and then we got 4.5, and then we got 5, and then we suddenly got 6 after a few months. So this evolves very, very quickly. It's gone from this is obviously AI generated to okay, I'm not sure anymore. It is expensive though. If you want to use Midjourney, it is very expensive. You have to pay a monthly fee for it. My license is, I think, $60 a month to use this. So it is fairly expensive to use. And it's also used in Discord, so it's a little more technical to use it. But now it is changing. So now they're making a website to also be able to generate photos from a website instead. It is a little hard to prompt it. You need a lot of text and a lot of specific details to get good results. Alternatively, you can use DALL-E 3, and this is also available in Copilot, so you guys have access to it. And it's kind of OpenAI's answer to image generation, like Midjourney and the other services. And here you can ask it to generate something, and you don't have to be so specific about the prompt because ChatGPT will understand your language and understand what you're saying, and it will make suggestions for you. And you can also make it change the picture, like, yeah, no, make it darker, make it lighter, and so on. And it will actually do it based on that. It's primarily used in ChatGPT. You can also use it in an API or then in Microsoft Copilot. Yeah. Microsoft Designer is kind of the same thing. It's based on the DALL-E 3, but you get it for free with your Microsoft Copilot account. For the ones that want to experiment, you have something called Leonardo AI. It is based on open source and custom models, and this has gotten really big now because they just launched a new big model from Stable Diffusion, which is very competitive with Midjourney and the other solutions, just open source and free. And Leonardo is always implementing all of this in their service. They do have a free tier. You get basic functionality. If you want more advanced stuff, you have to pay for it because everything with AI these days is paid almost. But then you can experiment with different image generation models and different functionality. It's relatively easy to use. And it also can produce a wide range of images and style. And you can also get Leonardo to make a prompt for you that you use in Leonardo, so you don't have to think about the prompt engineering aspect. And this is all, well, last one is based on something called Stable Diffusion, which is an open source model. Image generation has always had the problem that text and stuff like that is horribly difficult. But this is the new model that was dropped now a week and a half ago. It's not available yet. I can't download it. I really wish I could. But this one is very good at generating text and generating coherent images. So these images might be a little trippy, but they are coherent and everything is kind of correct. This also requires more advanced prompting because it's an open source model that you can just download. So that means that you do need to think more about how you phrase things. And it's a little technical setup because you need to set it up on your local machine and you need kind of powerful computers. Hence, this Leonardo AI solution. When it comes to video generation, I know some people might be interested in that, and this is funny. This is the first time I've ever talked about video generation in a presentation, because before now, video generation was crap. It was so easy to see that it was crap, that it was AI generated. But now suddenly the world was shocked again, and once again by OpenAI. So now video generation is actually something that's threatening a lot of industries in like video making. Runway has been around for a while, and I'll show you a little example of it. It's very clear to see that it's AI generated. But these people generate videos from relatively simple prompts. Up to 3 seconds per video can be extended to 15 seconds by extending it multiple times, but that's kind of the limit. And this is one of the first large scale video generators. It's been very popular. Everyone has been talking about it, but the results are kind of so. This is just a very quick example. There's no sound, by the way, so you're not going to hear any sound. But yeah. I'm just going to stop it. As you can see, there are some artifacts, some things changing, some faces changing on the way. And that is kind of indicative of the prompt, well, the video generation up till now. And it is getting a lot better and things are looking a lot more realistic, but there are some genuine like artifacts and you can really see that it's AI generated. Pika Lab is the main competitor from Runway. They also generate videos from simple prompts up to 3 seconds and can also be extended to 15 seconds because they all have to compete with each other. And this one is used in Discord. Runway has a website. Pika Labs has a Discord to generate this, which means you have to use Discord to be able to use it, and it's also paid. Runway is also paid, super expensive, by the way, and the same with Pika Labs. They are pretty expensive solutions, and it's a lot the same. You will see like some artifacts, some movement, and stuff that's not really looking authentic. It is getting pretty good, but you do see that something is off here and there, and not all of the facial expressions and so on are correct. And obviously, this is a sci-fi setting, so it works. But there are obvious signs that is AI generated. Uh, Stable Diffusion, they also have an open source video generator. This one is very limited. It can generate 14 to 25 frames. And this one is also very, very clearly AI generated. So you generate short videos and kind of on par with commercial solutions, but there's also a lot of problems with it. Um, So you do see, like the astronaut, something is not completely right. Like this one looks pretty good, but with the more realistic things, like human things, you do see that they're walking a little funny. So it's very clearly AI generated. But then you have the newcomer on the block, because OpenAI loves to just change the world and change the field. And they just launched something called Sora. It's not available for public yet. They only have some examples out there, and a select super users and videographers have access to it, but most of us don't. It will come at some point, they've said. Um, and this kind of shocked the world with its fidelity and high resolution because it is pretty damn amazing. Um, and you can also generate videos up to 1 minute at a time. And this is generation one. This is version one of Sora. I'm pretty sure we're going to get longer videos later. But the funny thing here is it can generate videos within videos and like multi-screen videos. It's pretty damn amazing. This is a long video. It has all of the newly launched ones, so it's 10 minutes. We're not going to watch it. But this is examples from OpenAI. And these are, as they say, generated in Sora without any editing. And this is then a kangaroo dancing on a stage, and it looks pretty good. And this one, I think one of my favorite. It's a lot of dogs just playing in the snow, and it looks incredibly, incredibly good. Obviously, there are some mistakes. If you look at all of the videos, you will see sometimes physics kind of disappear, and sometimes one item goes into another item and disappears. But this is pretty amazing for compared to the other solutions. And there's already been one video producer that's stopped a big $800 million investment in making their studio bigger because this came out, because it was, oh shit, how are we gonna get through that? And yeah, like this one, it's pretty amazing. And they also have the ability to merge videos in Sora somehow. So you can take one video and go through it, and then you merge into another video. It's pretty amazing. So video generation, I've never talked about it before in any presentation, just because it was not that good and it was also super expensive. But now we're getting to a point where it is actually a positive thing. Think about Sora in the medical field to generate an illustration of a heart and go through the heart to show the different pieces of the heart. That would be absolutely amazing. And that's also something I've gotten asked multiple times when I've had lectures at Akershus Universitetssykehus. They really want something like that. And unfortunately, for now, it doesn't exist, but I think we're getting close. I'm seeing that we're running out of time, but that's fine. I'll go through these last ones pretty quick. Research tools. There is a lot of these now, and some of them are super good. OpenAI has a lot of GPTs. By the way, these are free to use if you have a paid subscription. And a lot of them are focused on research and information gathering. Things like searching for paper, analyzing research topics, and so on. And they have their own category just for that specific task. Some of them are pretty amazing. So like Consensus and Scholar GPT, very, very good to find articles and find information. Perplexity, maybe my second most used AI tool. This is an AI powered search engine. So it's very good at finding papers in the early state of your literature review or just going into a new field. Because it will actually find sources for everything, it will actually find research papers, go through the papers, and make its answer based on that information in a completely different way than Copilot does, a completely different way than ChatGPT does, and also Google. And it will give you all of the references in context, and it will give you very good answers. It uses its own model plus ChatGPT plus now Claude and also Mistral, the French startup, to do this, and it is getting very good. This company has also grown from zero to like $600 million value in a few months. Consensus is I've been experimenting a little on this lately, and it's actually pretty good. It analyzes papers, multiple papers, to find the scientific consensus in research. So, like here, this is one of their examples that I just clicked on. Do direct cash transfers reduce poverty? And then 85% of researchers in these 13 papers that was analyzed says yes. 8% says possible and 8% says no. And then it will go through all of the arguments and the key insights of why this is true or not true. Very good tool if you're trying to find consensus in a field, trying to find what people are actually talking about and what they are agreeing on. And it also always references the papers used in generating the answer. So all of these links are existing links, and it will reference directly to research papers, peer-reviewed research papers. And it's also then very good finding opposing views. So the 8% knows here, you can go in and read those papers. If you mean yes, you can read those papers, and then you will get the opposing views. Cite is kind of something similar. It's kind of like ChatGPT for research. It finds papers and explain hard concepts rooted in those papers. So, like how many rats live in NYC? That's one of their examples. Then we'll find papers on that and like reports and publications on that, and it will explain it based in that paper. Elicit is also one of the new ones. It will also help you find paper on any topic, and it can help you clarify your literature review and help you align your scope pretty early. You can here upload PDFs, or you can search for one specific paper and find other referenced papers. And all answers are based on research papers. All of these research-focused ones, they always base their answers on that, not the general knowledge of the models. Connected paper is super nice visual representation. It let you see how papers are connected to each other. So here I've just added a paper on sparks of general artificial intelligence in GPT-4, and it will find all papers that have referenced that paper or that paper has referenced, and how they are put together and make kind of like a little spider web of how everything connects together. So then you can jump between the papers and see, oh yeah, okay, that person wrote about this from this paper. Okay, then that paper might be good, and so on. It's a very nice way of finding papers, specifically on related topics if you need something else. And it simplifies the literature review process significantly. Litmap is kind of their competitor. Is also doing exactly the same. See how papers connect to each other. They do it differently in the visualization, but basically it's very much the same. And this is a new one. I have tested this the whole of one time, but it kept popping up on my my lists, so I had to check it out. Something called Research Rabbit. What I've done here is I've uploaded one paper, and it will then, based on that paper, it will find similar work, citations about the authors, suggested other related authors, and give you an overview over all the similar papers, how they are connected to each other, how they build on each other, and you can also keep going, like explore all of the authors, what other stuff have they written, how can that be referenced into it. It's a very good research tool, and for now it's completely free. So Research Rabbit, I would suggest checking out. All of the other ones, they have a tendency to cost some money. This one is completely free for now. And there are a lot of other tools like GitHub Copilot. I mentioned it earlier. It makes writing code easier. You can chat with it, just say, write me this, and it will write the code for you. Obviously, you have to check it, but you can also do it based on your comments if you're making code. And now it can also go through and analyze larger code documents. So if you have already something you've coded up yourself and you need some help to extend it and so on, it can actually analyze everything and make more functionality for you based on all of the code. It's also a good AI co-programmer. Amazon Code Whisperer is exactly the same, just from Amazon. And it's also writing code based on the code you write, based on chats and comments and so on. And it can also fix code mistakes. If you have a mistake, it will see it and it will suggest fixing it for you. Assistants, yeah, I'll very quickly say, this is kind of like custom GPTs, just for developers and for people that want more control. I've made a few of these for a talk I had last week, and you can upload a pretty big data set, so text and information, and you can make your own functionality. So you can make it access your Google Calendar and so on, and then you can talk to it and it will have all of that data available. And it's set up with natural language, just like GPTs. You talk to it to generate it. It's aimed at developers, but useful for everyone. I just like bringing this in now because this was something that got a lot of attention and feedback at the conference when I presented it, and it is actually pretty interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna jump over multi-agent systems. I think this is just what I mentioned earlier, having multiple AIs talk to each other to agree before they give an answer, but also things like people have made whole game development studios now where you have one AI specialized in design, one in coding, one in marketing, and they will work together to make something. This is obviously something that's very technical for now, but this is something coming. OpenAI has said directly that they are trying to implement this in their ChatGPT service. Microsoft is also working on it, and everyone else. And then you can automate research tasks and so on. And you can also do this kind of with automation tools. If someone wants to automate away the boring parts of your job, this is something I would suggest checking out. It is something that costs money, but it's called Zapier. So a lot of other tools. You can set it up so if you add a new audio recording in a Google Drive or Dropbox or Microsoft OneDrive, if you add a new audio file in that folder, it automatically transcribes it with ChatGPT or something else, and then it analyzes it and makes a report. And if there are already existing reports in that folder, you can also make sure that it includes the previous report and make a new one. So it compares this transcription to the previous ones. And that's a way to just automate your life away. It is fairly easy to set up. You can set it up with AI, so you can ask it to set it up for you. But that is something that's worth checking out to make the boring parts of work easier. And that was all I was going to say. I got it just in time. If anyone has any questions or want to work together on something or just want to have a talk about AI, you're welcome to email me. But as I put on the bottom here, note that I'm pretty busy until like May now. So it might take a little while for me to answer. It's not like I'm answering the same day right now. But if there are questions after, you're welcome to send an email to me and I'll try and get back to you.